The Xbox Drive is fueled by patrons at patreon.com/UmiCapri. And from the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful to the nearly 70 patrons who support us each and every month. With special thanks to our Capremium producers, Dallas Ford, Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team, and Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the Nintendo Drive. You can support Jonathan Brown at youtube.com/GamingPurpleMonkey. Our platinum producers, Robbie Bobby Miller and Trucker Sloth, and all of our gold members, Argo, Benji Kong, Brendan Myers, Dallas Robbins, Dannoh, Emily O'Kelly, Foolish Fuji, Heather Boney, James Johnson, Dr. Doom, Joel Brooks, Jose Jimenez, Mac Time, Marcus O'Neill, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots, RJ Kern, Skinny Matt, and Xavier Reyes. If you'd like to support this show, go to patreon.com/UmiCapri and choose the Patreon tier that works for you. Now, on with the show. Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. I'm in my car and you're listening to the most horsepowerful podcast on the internet. It's the Xbox Drive. I'm on a Skype call with my friend Ryan Turford. He's the man on the moose, and on our journey today, we are one episode away from episode 200, so let's talk about Game Pass games. So jump on into the Xbox Drive. Oh, ran out of breath.
Greater than X.
Hello, Sean Capri.
I did not plan that out well at all, Ryan. I didn't take a deep enough breath. That's actually kind of dangerous for me to be really struggling like that while I drive around to get my drink at the McDonald's today. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I mean, that's what years of smoking does to your lungs, Sean. I mean, it's a big problem. But it's all good. I'm doing well. It's the sun's shining. It's still really hot here. There's I know a couple days ago you were talking on Sweet Hangs with Donnie about like the air quality not being great where it is.
Yeah,
and then
it's
that's
no good over here.
That's finally transferred to us. We're now finally seeing the effects of it. Where I look outside and
everything's
it's just
on
like
fire, all
like smoky outside and like foggy and stuff. It's so weird. Like you never see that here.
It's no good. Oh, too bad. I guess we'll just have to stay inside and play video games. Oh no.
Oh darn.
I know. It's like it's either rain or really we're looking for any excuse in the summertime to stay inside and play games and not feel bad about it.
You see this as the person who's literally driving a car outside of his house right now, Sean.
I know. I'm thinking, like, at what point do we just like retire the car bet, Ryan? Is that a thing? Do we just like maybe I just record like I start off this by saying like, hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. I used to do this show in my car, and you're listening to the Xbox Drive. Like maybe that's the future of the Xbox Drive.
You could do what
we'll
I do
see.
when I entered the PlayStation Drive, Sean, and say, I'm not in my car, and you're listening to the most PlayStation-rific podcast on the internet. It's the PlayStation Drive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
like
maybe,
I'm actively destroying the air quality as we're doing this.
Maybe that's how we celebrate 200 episodes, Sean. We just gotta kill the carpet.
Just drop the carpet.
We'll both break out our green screens. We'll do the fake driving thing again. It'll be great.
Yep.
Anyways,
I think that's it. Yeah.
I'm steering this show back on the road because we should probably talk about Xbox, of course, this being the Xbox Drive, of course. But let's clean the garage a little bit because obviously if you like what we do, of course, and you want to support our show, you can go over to youtube.com/YouMeCapri. That's a new thing. Of course, since the last time we recorded the show, we decided to basically convert the Xbox Drive YouTube channel into basically the You, Me, and Capri YouTube channel, which basically houses all of our shows now. So not just the Xbox Drive,
that's awesome.
The RPG Cave, the PlayStation Drive. We are also doing audio-only versions of the Nintendo Drive and We the Gamercast because those shows aren't becoming video shows. But we want people to be able to listen to them on YouTube because we do know that people like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, even if they don't have video. I know that I listen to, for example, a lot of Magic the Gathering podcasts on YouTube that don't happen to have video. They just happen to have a still image. Yeah. So we're essentially doing the same thing for those as well. So we wanted to have kind of all of our stuff in one place rather than you having to subscribe to like 5 different YouTube channels. Like that seems very silly. Plus we could do cool things like opening this box that I'm showing on the video version of the show right now. This is the Cris Tales Collector's Edition. It just came in the mail today. So I'm going to be doing an unboxing video. Basically, I'm filming it right after we're done recording today. So it'll be up.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, so stuff like that you're going to see on there as well. And we normally wouldn't do that type of thing. Like that would be something on my normal like Ryan Turford YouTube channel if we didn't have the You Make
Sure.
Capri channel. So it opens up some interesting video possibilities as well. So
and now it's really worthwhile to be there. Like really, like the point you kind of talk about how all our shows are going to be there. When you subscribe to this channel, you're basically getting new content almost every day.
Yeah.
It's kind of where we're at.
Pretty much.
So it's very reflective of the content that we're putting out there. Now it's all on YouTube. Like it actually makes a lot of sense. I'm really proud of that. And kudos to you. I wanted to jump in here to say thank you to you, because that's a lot of work, man. And it's all you. So kudos to Ryan Turford. You can send your kudos to him on Twitter at Ryan Turford.
Oh, well, thank you for the kind words. I mean, it was mostly just me watching progress bars go by, essentially. It's just kind of how the process kind of works. But yeah, you're right. There was a lot of back end stuff that we had to kind of put together to kind of make this work. But I think it's a change for the better. And I think you're going to see probably more videos than normal even go up there. And also, if you just want to look at the Xbox Drive stuff, that's not a problem. I have playlists for each of the shows. And in fact, if you just go to the YouTube page on its own, just youtube.com/YumiCapri, all of the playlists are right there. So you can just go to the Xbox Drive playlist and just all the shows will be added as we do them. So as well as we've got playlists for all the other shows there as well. So if you want to follow any other shows, that's the easiest way probably to get to if you're looking for a specific show. But enough about that.
Now, Ryan.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, not enough. This is an excellent time. We haven't talked about this in a little while, but it's a really good time to remind people that we still have a contest, a promotion going on. When we hit 500 subscribers here, we're going to give away a year of Game Pass. Is that correct? We did a year, right?
We did a year.
For them?
We did a year. We have the codes
we're gonna give away
currently
a year.
sitting.
Oh, hi there. Can I please get 2 large Diet Cokes and a medium decaf with 2 Splenda?
Okay, and that's everything?
That's everything. This is the best McDonald's in Sherwood Park, Ryan Turford. They just nail it.
Wait, how many other McDonald's are there in Sherwood Park?
There's a lot, actually. There's one right beside my house, which is the one that one's going downhill. I don't know if they're under new management or what the deal is, but there are a lot. Like I have many options, Ryan, but this is the one. It's on Broadmoor. Where the hell am I? And Casco Road. That's where we're at.
Shout out to McDonald's on
Broadmoor and Casco Road.
Yeah. If anyone from there is listening to the show, now you know. Now you know why there's this dude with a headset coming by and talking to you about weird stuff while also getting his
mystery is unshrouded. You can email at us at thexboxdrive@gmail.com or Twitter or whatever.
I mean, you did ask them about Final Fantasy 14 last week, Sean. But yeah, Game Pass.
A year of Game Pass. Yes.
So, I mean, there's that. We also have talked about this other Space Jam contest. We're not ready to announce the details for that, but we do have
I got to figure that out.
coming up soon too. That might also relate to the YouTubes. So lots of
maybe YouTube, maybe Twitter. Maybe watch out for Twitter for a little something.
Yeah. So follow us on Twitter at the Xbox Drive. We'll be tweeting about that. Or again, Sean Capri on Twitter and Ryan Turford on Twitter. We'll have more details then. As well, if you want to support the show for free, go over to your podcast service of choice. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts as well. If you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, we will actually read it on the show during the section. We didn't get any this week, but this is where that would normally go. Last but not least,
guys,
if you'd like to throw a little tip in the old tip jar, go over to patreon.com/YumiCapri. You get the show early, as well as early access to all of our other shows, as well as we have some exclusive content like the Yumi and Capri podcast, as well as the Pants Patreon podcast for patrons podcast. So you can go over to there and go do that if you'd like. All right, last thing that's going to transition us nicely into the playlist, Sean. It's almost like I planned this out ahead of time. We had a little cool opportunity last week from our friends over at Xbox Canada and Double Fine, where they allowed us, and by us I mean me, because one of the two of us to do this. I got to play Psychonauts 2, Sean, a little bit early,
dude. Very early, isn't it? Coming out like next month? Like it's still
it's the end of the month next month. So it's like August 5th, 25th is when it's coming out on Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, as well as PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So you can get it on all of the places. But I got to play 6 hours of Psychonauts 2 last week, Sean. I know. I couldn't believe it. I actually played something on Xbox.
I'm acting surprised. I listened to your extra mile, so I already knew that. But that's what some people might be saying is, wow, Ryan, 6 hours. Yeah. Tell me more.
So as you alluded to, Sean, I did a whole preview of the game, of the content that I played, which is up on the podcast feed and the video side. Although if you watch the video, it's just me talking to the camera. I didn't do any B-roll because, again, this is like a really cool and inventive game. And you could spoil a lot of stuff very easily. heavily with doing the video. Like even just watching some of the YouTube trailers spoils some of the cooler moments from what I played. So obviously anyone who's going on into this game on like media blackout, I wanted to make sure not to include any video for that reason. And I talked about that in the video too. So either way, I had a blast playing Psychonauts 2 last week, Sean. I played more, like I played the 6 hours, and then I actually went back and played some of the sections again, just because, again, we had like specific sections we could play. Number one, to help refresh my mind for the preview, but also just I had a really fun time playing this game. Like it's a game that I would say don't sleep on Psychonauts 2. I think it's like, don't get me wrong. Obviously, these are impressions from a preview build of the game. So obviously, changes can be made between then and kind of the final version.
It's going to be
game.
worse.
It could be, or it could be better. Yeah. I mean, who knows? But
well, I want to ask you a question because I saw some really, and you obviously when you do the preview, like you're not talking to anybody else. Like you have no idea what anybody else is going to come out and say. That's sort of the interesting part of when we're doing reviews or previews like this. But I think it was Jez Corden coming out saying like legit, like could be a game of the year contender. Like, is that kind of the impression that you got? I don't know if you're quite that hyped on it, but like, yeah, give maybe some context as to that because we saw a lot of tremendous positivity coming out with all the reviews and previews, I should say. I'm
going to preface something when it comes to my take on whether or not this could be a game of the year contender, because I personally think right now the year 2021 hasn't been an amazing year for games.
Sure.
We've had some good games like Resident Evil, like Scarlet Nexus, like Guilty Gear on the PlayStation side, but we haven't really had like a knockout game. I think that Psychonauts 2 has the potential to be a game of the year contender out of the games we played so far this year. Like a pretty strong contender. But at least from the section that I played. Again, if you like 3D puzzle platforming games or games like, you know, Mario Odyssey or Astro Bot, I think you're really going to like this game. Yeah.
You're putting it in that conversation. Like that's, so I need to, and I won't really know until I get my hands on it, Ryan, is that like I've been on this show a lot talking about how like who cares about Psychonauts? Like they keep talking about this thing. I'm like, just get it out so that Double Fine can move on to the next thing. But I am really shocked on this, and I'm happy to be wrong if this means that this is a game, and also not an Xbox exclusive as well.
Yeah, exactly. And part of that was just like I remember they announced the Kickstarter with Sony to start with, and it just so happened that when they bought Double Fine, this was kind of their last major project that was going to be cross-platform. So it is also on PlayStation as well, and I talked about that a little bit on the preview. Although I didn't play the PlayStation version, I did play it on Xbox Series X. But man, just the way it played, it just was so fluid. The comedy was just, you know, typical Double Fine, Tim Schafer style comedy. So if you like the comedy in games like Brutal Legend or like Costume Quest or even some of Tim's older games like Grim Fandango, then I think you're going to like the style of humor that's here as well.
I love Grim Fandango.
Combined with the fact that, again, Psychonauts 1 was a Game of the Year contender when it came out. And I feel there's even more polish on this version of the game. Like you definitely like the platforming just felt so much smoother to play than the original game. The combat oddly felt really satisfying, despite the fact that it's not really that deep and you don't see it that often. And just the places you go to in this game are just so weird and wacky, but it had like this really like amazing charm to it. So yeah, I'm really high on this game going into kind of the full release. Of course, again, we'll talk about it more in depth when the full game comes out, because then that's when we can kind of give it our kind of final verdict and whether or not it's worth picking up.
I'm sure we'll both be able to speak to it on that front. Like we'll both get a chance to play it. But you were definitely like the right person to take this preview on. Like you know the first one really well. You've recently done episodes covering the first game that people have heard on this feed. So that dude, like I'm kind of like realizing maybe some of what sounded like maybe marketing speak that like the teams would talk about, where it's like we've got all this creativity but we've been held back by dollars, and it's like, okay, well sure, on paper that might make sense, but what is it, how does it translate in reality? And maybe there's something to this, like as it should be. There's a ton of creativity and talent there. So what happens when you throw a couple more $1 million at a project and some sustainability that doesn't have them like looking over their shoulders wondering if they're just gonna have to close down the lights at any time? So really, man, this like completely changes me over with Double Fine as being part of Xbox Game Studios.
For sure. Like you can definitely tell like there was an increased budget with this game versus like any of their other games.
This is not really a Kickstarter game.
No,
you know?
Or likewise, it doesn't even feel like, because Brutal Legend, for example, was like probably their highest profile game. When you compare budgets, and even this feels like at a higher tier than something like Brutal Legend is when it came out too. So yeah, I'm very excited for people to get their hands on this. Again, the awesome thing about it is it's in Game Pass. So worst case scenario, if you don't like it, that's what the delete button's for. Then it's I think that it's a game that I think people are really sleeping on, and I think it could come out of nowhere and be an awesome hit.
Wow.
So
little dark horse. I like it.
Look forward to it coming out next month on the 25th. And again, I'm sure we'll be talking about it more when it comes out. But Sean, we should talk about the other things we played as well. So real quick before I go to you, because I know you have Scarlet Nexus to talk about.
We got to talk. We got both talk about this
for sure. I played Cris Tales as well, because it came out on Game Pass yesterday, even though I bought the collector's edition because I wanted to support the developer, because I really loved what I played from the demo and I heard so many great things about the full game. I did want to play it early, so I played it via Game Pass, and I'm not much farther than where the demo kind of leaves off, because the demo for Cris Tales is essentially just the first like hour of the game. And since it just came out yesterday, from the time we're recording this, I didn't have more than an hour and a half to really play it. So I'm not really much farther than I was in the demo. But again,
what is it? Well, like, I've watched it. I don't know that I really understand like what this game is from the trailer that I've seen. It seems like there's some turn-based combat in it. Like, tell me more about that.
So first of all, it plays very similarly to other turn-based JRPGs. It's similar to something like, Final Fantasy VII or older Square Enix RPGs, or even something like Octopath is probably what I would kind of compare it to. But
2D kind of perspective, but it also kind of plays with a little bit of depth. Am I seeing people kind of walk like forward and back as well as left to right?
Yeah. So first off, it's very much the game revolves around time travel. But it does time travel in a much different way than something like Chrono Trigger does, because you're not really going and visiting different eras in the same way that you are in that game. In this game, you can freely go into the past or the future, or sometimes you're splitting the world between the past, the present, and the future at the same time. And the way that works in combat is you can essentially, for example, you can if you have like a veteran soldier that you're fighting in, for example, you can teleport them into the future, like their side of the battlefield into the future, and they basically become like an old man, and you basically are so that their stats are basically reduced, because they're like an older person, because you teleported them into the future and you're basically fighting their future self where they're essentially like retired versus their present self where they're like at their peak. Or likewise, you might find a situation where you have to put them in the past for like similar reasons. So it kind of plays with this like time travel mechanic in the combat in a really interesting way, because you're essentially using that to your advantage. Or likewise, you can teleport yourself into the future to maybe get like, because some of your characters, of course, are a bit younger. So you can give yourself a little bit of a boost that way as well. So it plays really interestingly into the mechanics of the combat, but also the exploration as well, because it's a 2D game, and you're kind of exploring the environments very similarly to the way you would in other RPGs. But again, you can teleport either certain parts of the environment or just the environment as a whole into the past, the present, or the future, which again will change the places you can go, but also some objects you can interact with, for example. That may be done, like if you go to a destroyed building in the present, if you transport that building into the past, you can interact with it in a way you wouldn't be able to in the future because it doesn't exist anymore. So there's a lot of really inventive ways to kind of explore the environment, or even to play the combat. So
is it overwhelming though? Like it seemed like you're kind of a smarty pants when it comes to this sort of thing. Like I'm kind of having like a bit of a nosebleed thinking about all this time travel, man.
No, I mean it's assigned to the buttons on the controller. Like there's a future button and a
like
past
power
button.
ups?
Essentially, yeah, they're more like power ups. But it just makes you have to think about the world in a much different way than you would in other games.
Very
but
creative.
I've really enjoyed it, and I didn't really find it overwhelming while playing it. It just feels very natural while playing the game. So it's definitely a game that I recommend people check out, especially if you like turn-based RPGs. I think you're going to really dig this game. Plus, the art style is just gorgeous for this game. Like it looks just
it's
so beautiful. So yeah, definitely recommend Cris Tales, and I'm excited to play more of it because I'm not very far into it. But Sean, we can finally talk about Scarlet Nexus again.
We've
been talking about it for a while now.
Well, I just want to close things off with Cris Tales just to say it seems like that's like the kickoff to what is going to be a crazy summer and fall even of Game Pass games. It seems like that's the one that tips us off here. So yeah, very cool, man. But yeah, Scarlet Nexus is a thing. I finished it. Have you completed it? I ran credits on my Kasane run, which is one of the 2 protagonists that you can play in Scarlet Nexus. And I'm curious, like, are you with me? You've been playing all these other things? You've been doing Psychonauts. You got this going on.
I was going to say, I'm like on this, what I perceive to be like the second last mission. So I'm
okay.
Pretty much ready to go for the reasons you talked about, where I played almost 10 hours of Psychonauts last week, combined with, putting the video together and stuff like that. So I just didn't have as much time as I wanted to go back to it. Cause I was already like at the halfway point. So I was pretty close to finishing it, but I'm pretty close to finishing it also as Kasane as well. Cause we both played as Kasane. Yep. I know Matt, cause I've been talking to Matt over on the PlayStation Drive, who's also playing Scarlet Nexus. He's playing as Yuito right now because he knew you and I both were playing as Kasane. So he's like, we should do
a crossover.
We should do an extra mile with that. And yeah, tell him to hurry up. Matt, if you're listening, hurry the hell up, finish the game. We'll record a little because I kind of want to do a real like in-depth kind of review of this game. I think there's a ton to discuss that we really never, that's what the extra mile is really for. Yeah.
Is for us to really dive deep into it. And I think I have a lot of thoughts. I also would love to dive into maybe even some spoilers at a certain time. This is not the place for that, so everybody can just relax. But this reminds me, Ryan, like that we go on journeys with games, and I feel like Scarlet Nexus, I really did go on a journey where, like, at the start, like I was all in. There's a middling part where I'm like, I don't know about this, and I've been very mindful of this as I've been kind of talking about it on the show over the last couple of weeks, and I just want to like take this moment an opportunity to kind of like solidify what people can expect from, at least from me, is I'm going to tell people like how I feel about a game as I'm playing it, and that's honestly all I can really do. I don't know that I can, and I try to be as upfront and clear as possible. As like, I'm a couple hours in, here's what I think at this point, or I'm a middle of the way there, I haven't completely finished it, and here's what I think about it now. Because I do feel if I reflect on how I've talked about this game over the last couple of weeks, like it has changed, and I think that might be confusing for some people, but that's just my journey with the game. And like is it because it kind of unfolds in different ways, and like I said, the middling part of it is like, okay, where are we going with this story? This is all to say, Ryan, that the story itself is damn near incomprehensible. There are like government agencies or people that like, I don't know what anybody is talking about. There is time travel in this that gets very, very confusing. It's like anime over the top. And where I've landed after my run through with Kasane is like, as I was coming up to finishing the game, I'm like, I kind of just want to finish this, get to the end so I can move on to the next game. And now that I finished my playthrough, I kind of want to play with Yuito now. Yep. I kind of want to see what the other side of it is like. And I don't know what that really means. Like, this is why, quote unquote, reviewing games is so interesting to me, because it's like, does that mean I recommend the game? Like, I don't think that it's for everybody. It is a lot. It's very anime, but the action really is very satisfying. I don't think that it's the same throughout the entire game, which is some of the things I'm hearing from a few other people who haven't quite finished it. But I was saying this to Donnie on Sweet Hangs, where it's like, yeah, you do have to go through the first 10 hours is going to be different than the next 10 hours. And it probably took me maybe 25, 30 hours to complete my run through. Now, my play clock, Ryan, if you leave this game in quick resume, the clock will continue. So that's a nightmare for me. I found that out once and it threw everything off. But I came to really like it, like especially in the sort of the final third of the game. Characters started to have their final arcs and they started to like come around. They had a revelation that was a result of either conversations that they were having with Kasane or things that were happening. You have those bonding episodes. You're giving everybody their gifts and building these relationships, which is very, very Persona-esque. It plays through into this game like that. And it starts to actually have some payoff in the end, which I was hoping for. But yeah, the story is just, what is even happening? I don't know who to trust. Everybody's backstabbing everybody. Then they're quick to trust them all over again. And there's all these different things going on. It's kind of hard to follow. But I'm left thinking about this game quite a lot, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I really like what I played, and I agree with you. The story is just kind of all over the place. My problem with Scarlet Nexus is just the middling part of the game. Like basically, after the 10-hour mark, found it very hard to get motivated to want to play this game.
Sure.
I mean, that's part of the reason why maybe I haven't finished yet, but also too, because of the way I'm playing it, I'm not playing a little bit every night and kind of getting through it that way. I basically had put it down for 2 weeks and then came back to it, which you never really want to do with a game like this, where you're kind of in the middle of the experience. Like, I almost felt like in retrospective, it might have been better if I just started over rather than going through starting through the halfway point again.
It seems built like it's meant to be played episodically, honestly. Like it's chopped up very clearly and definitely that like there's phase 1, there's 12 phases that you play through, and you could really go through you could spend an evening playing through like a phase. Yeah. Where it's like you have like an action phase, you're wandering the world, you're killing people, you're doing side missions and managing inventory and all that kind of stuff. And then you head back to your hideout and talk to your friends and build relationships and all that stuff. And that caps off what could really be an episode, and you can kind of chop it out. You can play it that way. You can approach it in that sense.
Yeah, it almost feels like you're just going through like a 12 episode anime series, essentially. Just
totally.
Which is the way most anime series actually work, is like the standard is 12 episodes. So yeah, it kind of feels like I like that. And again, I liked what I played of it. And I think the game's really fun. It's just, it's been, I don't know what it is about the game where it's like, it wasn't really grabbing me. In a way that I was hoping it would. But again, I think a lot of that has to do with just the way I've been, this whole month has been kind of crazy for me. Sean knows this with kind of what's going on at my job and stuff like that, but also what's been going on with Psychonauts 2 and putting the channel together and whatnot. So yeah, totally. It's been a busy week, but either way, I'm excited to at least talk about it in more depth with you guys once. Yeah, I want to talk about
let Matt get on it, man. Yeah. Let's do this. That'll be fun.
We should probably move on because we're 25 minutes in the show. We haven't touched the news yet, so we should probably get to that, Sean.
Nothing happened though. Like there's not that's it.
I know.
Nothing happened. We don't have any news.
I'm slamming the brakes on this conversation, Sean. It's time for some breaking news.
I was being sarcastic.
I know. Let's talk about the games coming to Game Pass, Sean, because we got a big Game Pass drop yesterday. So let's talk about this. So
let's talk about it.
First up, Cris Tales, of course, I just talked about it. It's out right now. You can go play it.
Yep.
Atomic Crops is coming out on July 22nd. It's something to do with like weird like crops, like corn and stuff coming together.
Okay, good sell.
Doing stuff. That's all I know about it. Raji,
I like it.
and Ancient Epic comes to Game Pass.
Dude. I almost bought that game like a couple of weeks ago. I am stoked that this is on Game Pass because you've spoken very highly of this one.
This game was really good. So I encourage folks to go check it out. It's like a isometric Prince of Persia style game where you're going around exploring these environments. You're fighting these mythological creatures. It was really, really, really cool. And I really enjoyed playing it last year. So definitely that's one to check out. Last Stop comes out on July 22nd. And then on July 26th, we get a couple original Xbox games. Blink's The Time Sweeper on July 26th. And then Crimson Sky's High Road to Revenge on July 26th.
What the hell? Crimson Skies, that's awesome, dude. That's a huge hype moment on this list.
That game's really fun still to play today. Well, we might be talking about it at some point on the Crossroads. Ooh. Wink, wink. And then Microsoft Flight Simulator comes to consoles on July 27th. And then
so many planes.
Lethal League Blaze comes to Game Pass on July 29th. Omno comes to Game Pass on July 29th. Project Wingman comes to PC Game Pass on July 29th. And then The Ascent comes to Game Pass on July 29th.
Did you say Wingman or Wingman?
Wingman.
So look at all the pilots you have in this thing.
They did want to pile them all together around the same time frame.
What is Project Wingman? It's on PC, so who knows if...
That's why I didn't do too much digging into it, because I can't play games on PC, right? So real quick...
I might look into it.
I'm going to stop you here, Sean, because we got a question from Seamus McIsaac, at Famous Seamus. In fact, we had two questions that actually go with this topic nicely. So first off, Seamus asks, what game are you looking forward to playing the most from this new list of upcoming Game Pass games?
Oh my God.
And I'm going to strike Cris Tales from the running because I know both of us are excited about this one, or at least I personally am, and I'm already playing it. So out of this list, Sean, what gets you most excited?
What a hard question. And you guys know me very well. When you're asking me to pick my number one thing, I'm gonna give you 5. So here we go. I'm stoked about Raji based on what you've told me. And Ascent, honestly, if I'm being like truthful to the core of the question, I think the Ascent is actually the one that I'm the most hyped about. But it really is of all the list announcements that they've done for Game Pass, like this one is really tricky to pick just one. I want to jump into Cris Tales. I downloaded it yesterday. I definitely want to check out Flight Simulator and see how that works on on consoles. I think I'll probably skip Blinks. Battlefield 5 is excellent. I played that before, but Battlefield 5 is coming through EA Play to the cloud.
Yeah, it's just the cloud version because it's already on Game Pass.
Oh,
it's been on Game Pass for a while.
So, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, Raji, Ascent, Flight Simulator I want to check out. Cris Tales I definitely want to check out. Very curious about Wingman based on the cover art alone, Ryan Turford.
Project Wingman, what a title. As for me, honestly, I'm going to pick the boring answer because I've been wanting to play Flight Simulator ever since they announced it, and my PC is not powerful enough to run it because we had gotten codes for it last year. But I just didn't have a computer powerful enough to run it. So I never actually ended up playing it on PC. So I'm really excited to play Flight Simulator for the first time. Like that's the one I'm really excited about, especially because I've already played Raji. I know it's amazing. And the Ascent.
You know Crimson Skies.
Yeah, Crimson Skies as well. Like I have a physical copy of that and Blinks, Sean. So I mean, the Game Pass versions of them aren't exciting to be. The Ascent and Flight Simulator are my two most anticipated from this list. Again, striking Cris Tales because again, I'm already pretty excited about that one. So those are the ones I'm excited about.
What a list.
And then Mike at Blaze Knight 0923 asks, Blinks the Time Sweeping Cat is coming to Game Pass. Is this a game worth checking out, or would our time be better spent playing something else? Mike, I'm just going to break it to you, but Blinks is not worth playing today. I mean,
look at it.
it's fine. It's worth playing for chuckles, but I don't think it's a game. I just don't think it's a game that personally has held up very well as far as the action and the combat is concerned. So I think it's definitely a hard game to go back to. Despite it getting 1x visuals and it looking very pretty, I just don't think it's a game that's worth going back to, especially with all the.
Do you know who made that one?
Sorry?
Who made it?
Oh,
it's an Xbox Game Studios game, but who made it?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to go look at it.
Yeah,
because it's been a while since I've had to do any.
It would have been exclusive. That's crazy.
But I will say, Mike, if you are looking for an OG Xbox game to play and you've never played Crimson Skies, play Crimson Skies. That game is awesome. It's a flight game, but it's an arcade game. It kind of reminds me of stuff like Rogue Squadron, but just not Star Wars. It's just in this like cool like steampunk world, and it's that game is still so fun. So definitely check out Crimson Skies if you want an OG Xbox game that's on Game Pass to check out. Like it's definitely worth checking out. But John, we got to talk about the games that are leaving Game Pass. So on July 31st, the following games are leaving, and there's not too many bad games here to talk about, but I should mention them. It Lurks Below, The Tourist, and Undermine. I heard good things about The Tourist, so that's the one game I would say maybe to check out, but all three games are kind of okay. But I always like to mention...
That's not a heartbreaking list.
Yeah, but I always like to mention the ones that are leaving, just so people know to check them out. Since these are leaving on the 31st this time, you have a little more time than the last drop that we heard that was leaving, where they were leaving like less than a week from the time we heard they were leaving. So it didn't really leave much time for them. But moving on, Sean, we should talk about all of the Ubisoft announcements that we got this week, because we got a few of them. So first up, both Riders Republic and Rainbow Six Extraction have new release dates because they've been delayed. Riders Republic will now launch on October 28th, and Rainbow Six Extraction will launch sometime in January of 2022. So
that's actually best case scenario for that game, Ryan.
Yeah,
honestly, get it out of what was it doing there before?
Like it might get delayed until like, who knows, like the summer of next year at this point. But especially too, because they didn't assign a date to it. They just said January, like nebulously. Whereas Riders Republic sounds like it's much further along, and I would imagine it's probably not going to get delayed again from October 28th. But I know of the two games, both of us were actually pretty excited about Riders Republic. Like that game looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
That time slot is rough though.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm all in on. There's a bunch of Nintendo stuff coming out in October actually that I think I'm going to be jumping in on. So that's tough one for Ubisoft to put that into a really competitive time spot for that game.
Plus,
it needs more room to breathe.
It's 2 weeks before Forza as well. So that makes it even harder.
Yeah. Because that's kind of occupying the same space too. Like I know Nintendo to that is a bit of a jump, but yeah, when you're talking about Forza, yikes.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. But I mean, I'm glad they're at least, not delaying it for too long. But definitely like October hurts more than September, because it was supposed to come out this September. And I think that would have been a much better window for it.
I agree. I mean, yeah, that's probably why they spotted it there originally.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, sticking with Ubisoft, and this, people have opinions about this next story. They have announced a new free-to-play first-person shooter called Tom Clancy's XDefiant with a capital X, aiming to combine the universes of Ghost Recon, The Division, Splinter Cell, and more. Because they said there's
Is he rolling in his grave right now, Ryan? Is Tom Clancy just like, no thanks?
Maybe.
Like, what are you doing?
Maybe.
Yeah.
There's a PC beta launching on August 5th, and it will come sometime later to Xbox One and Series X and S. And we got like a little bit of a trailer for this. And I'm just not feeling this one, Sean. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I mean, it looks fine, I guess, if you like
Don't
first-person
poop on
shooters.
it already. We haven't played it.
I'm just going by the look, and I'm saying it doesn't really, the look doesn't appeal to me. So, but it's a free-to-play game, so you never know. It might actually be fun, just like Knockout City was fun, try too. So
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn from my ways, Ryan.
It just makes me sad that this is the newest Splinter Cell thing. And again, it just reminds me, once again, we still don't have a new Splinter Cell game, Sean. So
I'm telling you, dude, they're playing with people. They're playing with fire maybe a little bit, but I do think that every time that something comes out and it's not Splinter Cell, and eventually when they do a Splinter Cell thing, it'll just be like that much more of a revelation for people. Like they're really making you wait. It's kind of like what Nintendo did with Metroid. Yeah. Like now that they're finally giving you Metroid, it's going to be a big deal over here. I think maybe the same. They need to let that sit and fester for a little bit. Make people go really, really crazy.
Exactly. All right, last news story before we jump into questions. This was a big one, but it's more of an Xbox adjacent story, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit here. Valve has announced the Steam Deck, a portable device that plays your Steam library. But interesting enough, Windows can be loaded on the machine because it is an open platform, creating a potential Game Pass portable device. Sean, I know you talked about this a lot on Sweet Hangs with Donnie this weekend, but what did you think about the Steam Deck? Are you excited about this?
No, well, I'm excited that it exists. I think that this is really something that can shake things up. I like that there's going to be maybe at least in design and look and feel, maybe a bit of a competitor for what Nintendo's got going on. Shame on Sony or maybe even Microsoft as well for not doing this, for basically just lying over backwards and letting Nintendo have the handheld market. It makes me also think that what's going on with VR, like is this a bit of a sign of what the industry is doing, or maybe looking to go, maybe VR wasn't the revolutionary thing that we all wanted it to be. Meanwhile, Nintendo is proving that handheld is really the market that exists there for millions, tens of millions of people. So a bit of an insight there, I think. And of course, like how it impacts this show is like, what's Game Pass look like on this thing? And what is the opportunity there for perhaps even cloud gaming or installing your PC games through Game Pass for PC and then playing them on your Steam Deck? Those are all very cool things. But Ryan, it's a little bit out of my price range, and I think it's ugly as all get out. I think that I'm on that camp. I think a lot of people think it looks cool, or maybe they don't care. I care. It looks gigantic, and that's not to take away from anything that it's able to accomplish. It has to be that size. There's a lot of that kind of going on, but I think it looks ugly. I think the layouts the button layouts are a little bit strange, and I'm probably not going to buy it. But I wanted to succeed, so I'm straddling the fence on that front because I'm not willing to put my money down. But I hope enough other people buy it so that this becomes a thing. I want it to become like a product kind of category, as I think Gabe Newell is trying to go for here.
Yeah, like I think it's a really awesome idea. And again, just having an open platform like this, like being able to load, the Microsoft Store or the Epic Game Store or whatever game store that you have your games on PC, I think is an awesome idea to be able to play that portably, because it'll be a much different experience than bringing a laptop with you, because bringing a laptop and playing games on it isn't usually that great. Like, I don't really love that. No. So, I mean, I think that this is gonna be a great alternative for PC players who want to play games on the go, especially like the Steam library in particular, because one, it's the biggest library in gaming, but you've also got a lot of game genres on there that I think work super well portably. Like, you have a ton of visual novels on there, as well as just a lot of games that are more chill games as well, like that you don't really see on, like you see some of that on Switch, but I think that a lot of those, especially like more indie games, just hit PC and PC only. So I think that it's definitely going to be like a really solid handheld for that stuff. Not only that, but this could possibly be like one of the best emulation machines of all time because of the specs and it being able to probably run like, N64 emulators or PS1 emulators and stuff like that if you're kind of into that thing. So I think that there's a lot of potential with this device, like you said, to be awesome. And I would love to see like maybe Microsoft fire back and do kind of like an Xbox handheld like this.
Well, that's what I think it was Josh Stapleton had a question a couple weeks ago asking us about this. And I think that you were, maybe we can rewind time. And I think that you were kind of on the negative side, like, no, they shouldn't do that. And I think I was like, I think there might be something there. And I think this proves that. So maybe there was a missed opportunity certainly by PlayStation, because they've done this before. But yeah, I think Microsoft has needed to be focused on their two pillars. So I don't know if the timing was quite right, but it does prove, at least from what we're seeing in the availability or lack thereof of this thing on pre-orders, is maybe a bit of proof that this is something that can thrive and survive in this marketplace as another category.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely will eat crow on this one, Sean. I was wrong when I said that on the show, or at least I didn't really, it was hard for me to kind of put into context how impressive a device like this would be until, seeing one actually announced.
That's why it's so great for Steam to have done this, because you're right, and I was right there with you. Like, I think we both kind of had a hard time conceptualizing, like, what does it look like? How much does it cost? Like, what is it really going to do? And it's the link to Steam. It's all the games on the PC that, like, oh yeah, like there's a lot of games over there that people already have, and a whole player base over there that you can bridge the gap. It makes a lot of sense now that we see it in the flesh.
Especially too, like with Microsoft Game Studios, they're already doing very well on Steam. Like at Sea of Thieves, for example, Steam is like one of the top platforms for Sea of Thieves. So seeing that be able to be portable, or even like imagining playing Halo Infinite on this thing, Sean, like how cool that would be.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of potential with this device. And I mean, I'm not...
For free, by the way. You can play Halo Infinite multiplayer for free, regardless of your Game Pass or whatever. Like it's just another device for people to like play Microsoft games on. So maybe I have to be curious too if there's any sort of like partnership going on there to make sure that this can maybe link up. And also, maybe we should go back and watch those videos of Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer. Maybe it wasn't a Switch in the background. Maybe it was a Steam Deck.
Maybe the Switch was meant to be the Steam Deck. I don't know.
Yeah, they just didn't have one.
Exactly. But, Sean, let's let some of our friends into the car with us. It's time for the carpool before we go today. Of course, if you want to be part of the carpool, if you want us to answer your question on air, of course, if you follow us on Twitter at the Xbox Drive, we tweet out a questions post every Tuesday where you can leave your questions for us and we'll answer them on the show. Also, if you leave a comment on YouTube or a question on our Discord server, we'll read it in this segment as well. So we're going to start with Dan at Dannoh12, and he asks, with Microsoft Flight Simulator coming closer to launch, what cities are you hoping to fly over or visit first? This, of course, is as if you've already not played the PC version. Sean, I know you played the PC version quite a bit, right?
Yeah, but I suck at it, man. I can't go to any place. I can't go to anywhere. I was just doing like tutorial stuff. But yeah, I think that I kind of want to do... Like, I want to get over Antarctica. It's not, like, exciting as that might be. Like, I don't know if there's really anything to see. But it's just so remote, and, like, I'll never go there in my entire life. But, like, I want to go through, and again, this isn't a city or even a country. I want to go to Africa. Like, I want to go over there and basically recreate like a planet Earth kind of experience for me. I love those DVDs, and I should have Mr. Badbed from the trophy room do some voiceover for me, like do his version of David Attenborough as I fly through the safari or some of the jungles in Africa. I think would be really interesting. And that's kind of where my mind goes. I know a lot of people do maybe urban landscapes or Europe, and you're thinking about like Eiffel Tower and stuff like that. But I want to do Africa and Antarctica is kind of first thing that comes to mind for me.
Those are really good choices, Sean. Especially Antarctica is a place you'd never go to for sure.
Yeah.
And whereas again, my boring answer is I would just want to fly over Japan and Asia and go over those places. Just because again,
Great Wall of China.
Yeah. Like seeing that from the air, that would be really cool. So yeah, I'm really excited for Flight Simulator because again, this is a game that I wanted to play when it came to PC, but I just couldn't play it there. And plus, I imagine
I just hope it's easier to play on console.
I imagine it will be. That's what I was about to say because like they're going to factor in the fact that pretty much everyone's going to be playing this with controller and without a keyboard. So I think they're going to factor that into the way this version plays. So I would imagine it's going to play easier, but again, we won't know until we have our hands on the game relatively soon. Next up. Todd Oxtra at Toxtra asks, we're less than 4 months away from Halo's 20th anniversary and most likely Infinite's release date. So why is there so little information on Halo Infinite's multiplayer beta and single player campaign gameplay?
How should I know, Todd?
Oh, you're pulling a Garrett Bland, I see. So
yeah.
Todd, here's right. I think that they're just sitting on this and waiting for it to I think when we know the release date, like when they announce the release date, I think there's going to be like a big like Halo presentation that they're going to do, basically to announce the release date and then show off more information about the game. Because I would imagine they're not going to just announce the release date and then have the game come out without showing us more of the single player, especially, but also the multiplayer. Because again, we haven't even seen the single player being redone after the big overhaul. So I imagine that's coming soon, but I think they're waiting until they announce the release date before going too much into that. That's kind of my read on the situation. But what do you think about this, John?
Well, I'm wondering if Todd is fear-mongering on this, which is what kind of my response to it is. Like, that must mean that there's development trouble, or there must be like some problem, or we should be worried about it. And it's like, I'm not worried, man. They confidently just took another year off of this thing to apply the polish that they need. I think that they will tell us when they are ready to tell us. I think it showed really well after E3. And also, not in our news today, but Xbox, by the way, was the #1 selling console by dollars in June's NPDs. NPD? NDP. No, NPD. We have a political party here called NDP, so I always get those confused. Huge deal. E3 for Xbox was a massive deal. I think Halo played a really huge impact into that, along with everything else that they showed. So they accomplished that. They got what they needed out of what they showed so far, and I think that it's good for us to practice a little bit of patience. We're not even we're 5 weeks since E3, so it's okay. I do expect maybe there to be some sort of big extravaganza, maybe in the next, I would say, 3 weeks, Ryan Turford, for us to get some big Halo news. There's also a bunch of stuff happening on like the Halo Waypoint and Insiders program. There's a lot of stuff. So if you're in that community, you're getting some details there. And they did, like I said, they did a bunch of stuff even after E3. It wasn't even just that spotlight that they did. There was a week after that they had a whole bunch of stuff for Halo. So I'm not worried about it at all, man. They showed us what we need, and everybody's hyped. So don't break it, you know?
Plus, I think that it goes along the lines, too, that like with Call of Duty, when you make the comparison, Call of Duty is still coming out this year. We know that it is, and we literally know nothing about it. They haven't even announced the name of the game yet. So, and I think that's partially what they're waiting for, too.
The name of the game.
So, yeah, I think we'll know about it. Like we said, probably before the end of August, we'll kind of know more information. All right, last question before we go comes to us from Garry at GJ Doggy, and he asks, with Flight Simulator on the horizon, I wanted to check out another simulator, Farming Simulator 19, which also got into Game Pass, which we read off a couple weeks ago. And now I'm hooked, lol. Will you ever try Farming Simulator 19? Sean.
Oh, I would love to, actually. I watched, and there's a great episode of my podcast called We the Gamercast, and look up Riboflavins on that episode, because Ribo plays a lot of Farming Simulator and all of those games. I was fascinated when I talked to him about it, and also there's really great esports around Farming Simulator. It's really entertaining that people should definitely check out. There's so much to do. I feel like my best kind of interaction with Farming Simulator is actually through esports. That might be where I get most enjoyment out of it, but I'm glad to hear that other people are trying it out. That's the nature of Game Pass, to try something you probably would otherwise never really try. But Ryan, how are we going to fit Farming Simulator into our play schedule right now?
The answer is it's probably not going to, because there's too much going on right now, honestly. I mean, and to be fair, simulator games in particular, for me, I've never really been into any of them. The only reason I'm really excited about Flight Simulator is just, I've heard so many great things about it, but also just the fact that it is just flying, and I've liked so many flight games before, that's why I'm excited for it. Whereas Farming Simulator...
It's the OG.
Yeah. Whereas like
Flight Simulator's a 1. Like, that's the font that everybody copies off of, is the original Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like, that's the thing.
I mean, I remember having the floppy disks on Windows 3.1 for Flight Simulator, Sean. So
totally.
Yeah. I that's why I'm more excited for something like that than maybe playing something like Farming Simulator, because again, I don't really like farming games, and I don't like other simulators, so it's a tougher sell for me. But we've got to go, Sean. But before we go, Sean, plugs go.
I just want to say, I know this was a little longer of an episode, but I had a great time, Ryan. We talked about a lot of good stuff. I hope people enjoyed it. It's just relax. Everything's going to be fine. You can find me on the internet, on Twitter, at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. And I'm just going to replug the Patreon, patreon.com/YouMeCapri if you guys like this. I also do the Nintendo Drive. You can find there on Patreon or on free feeds. And I'd love to have a couple more people join us up, man. We're damn near 70 people on Patreon, so I'd love to have somebody else jump on. And that's it for me, I think.
Very nice, my friend. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Ryan Turford. You can also find us on YouTube at at Yumi Capri. I almost said youtube.com/the Xbox Drive, Sean, but it's new now.
It's different.
We're also on Twitter at the Xbox Drive as well, so you can find us there, as well as on podcast services around the globe. So for Sean Capri, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been episode 199 of the Xbox Drive.
Wow.
Only one more episode before 200, and we out. Bye.
I'm going to end the episode by dedicating this entire outro to our very latest patron, Sebastian and Tilano Zuniga. I hope I said that right. You are an amazing person. I appreciate all of your support, and everybody else who supports us on Patreon is amazing. You guys are awesome. Goodbye.